No State Project here at the Liberty. No, I screwed that up, didn't I? This is the
Freedom
Summit here. I guess you'll be doing the Liberty Forum soon. Are you going to actually be there?
I'll be there next week, yeah.
Great. Well, we're here with Davi Barker and, of course, bitcoinsnotbombs.com. We have a banner on the website. We proudly do that. And you're also with Daily Anarchist. You run Daily?
Yeah, that's right. I'm the editor. Seth King actually owns the website, but yeah, I'm the editor on the site.
Right. Well, and now we were just talking before this about Bitcoins Not Bombs. You do that with Drew and
Megan Kellison.
She just spoke at the Freedom. So that should be hosted on freedomsphoenix.com.
Sure.
Okay, so I want to get into, just hold that up for just a second. Wait, and this is what you were talking about. I know we're really high tech here on the No State Project, but no tech issues so far. I met you the first time, and you talking about this. I don't know if it was the first public talking you did about that at Libertopia.
That was the first formal talk that I did to present the idea. I actually presented the idea sort of impromptu at PorcFest during the Agorist pitch, and at the time I was given 3 minutes to pitch the idea. So.
Wow. Well, actually, you know, I could talk to you about that for quite a while, because a lot in my new book, Government Indicted, I go through a lot of the psychological stuff. So when you asked this morning who had heard about these
you were one of 3 people that raised that.
Because I had done a lot of, I mean, I knew about the Milgram experiment. I've known about that for over a decade and whatnot, and the other ones. But some of the other ones that you would, you know, the hypocrisy one, and like with the $100, that I only learned in the past year or so, which is really interesting. But it makes sense. And so what you bring out in the study, what the studies bring out, what you've reported on, is that people in so-called high authority positions actually get a charge.
It is pleasurable to lie if you think of yourself in a position of high power. And what the profile that the sort of collection of experiments has shown is that it makes it easier to lie, easier to cheat, easier to steal, and it also makes you harsher on other people for doing those things and more lenient on yourself for doing those things.
Well, it sounds like you're talking about a cop or a judge.
Yeah, well, that is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there was a part of the study that I thought was fascinating, because what I wanted to do, and I did accomplish it to a degree with the first book, Adventures in Legal Land, was to use humor to destroy a concept.
Right. That's the power and hypocrisy experiment.
Right.
That this is the thing that I'm talking about, because I'm not hearing other people talk about. I'm hearing a lot of people talking about the legitimacy of the state and the legitimacy of the power, but there was one experiment where they actually used that as a control group, and they had both a low power, a legitimate high power, and an illegitimate high power group in their experiment. And what they discovered, at least in the hypocrisy experiment, was that those who believed that their power was illegitimate exhibited the opposite psychological effect, and that they were actually, they called it hypocritical. The scientists invented that word. They were less hypocritical than the low power group. And so if that trend is true in the other symptoms of authoritarian sociopathy, it may be that undermining the legitimacy in the mind of the authoritarian could reverse his tendency to lie, reverse his tendency to cheat and to steal. And if that's true, that's like a silver bullet. That means that mockery could be the answer to a monopoly on force.
I agree with you. I'll put it to you this way, too, from personal experience. I don't know how much you're familiar with my work, but I deal every day with these authoritarian sociopaths. I mean, every single day, 5 days a week. And I know that when I'm asking simple questions and it comes out, now I'm not saying this happens all the time, because it doesn't, but when it comes out, it happens all the time that they realize or even admit that they don't have any evidence, that their position is not one of quote unquote, legitimate authority. That when they see that under their own understanding, because I'm just asking questions, that they don't really have this legal sanction, things do change.
Right.
That's when, and I wish it was every time, but of course we're dealing with psychopaths, and so depending on how long they're on the job and what other social factors, they don't always, have that reversal.
Well, I think democracy is a very powerful proof of this concept, because right now the illusion is that the approval of the majority legitimizes the use of power. Now, if you were looking at a tyrant in any other period in history, if you were looking at a pharaoh or a Caesar or something like that, public opinion didn't matter to them. Their legitimacy was from God or something. And so if there was a public opinion that said, oh, well, we would rather have Augustus than whoever, then that would not affect their sense of legitimacy. So the psychology of authority pays no deference to public opinion in and of itself. But in our system, you have these people who are full-tilt authoritarian sociopaths to the same degree as a Pharaoh or a Caesar, but the moment that poll shows up, the legitimacy changes, and now this guy is the authoritarian sociopath in charge and this guy isn't. And that is only the legitimacy that changed, not the concept.
Right, and so on a one-on-one basis when I'm dealing with them, I can tell you, at least I know it's anecdotal, but it's a lot of anecdotal evidence that when we get that change, I've had some where we're on the phone and I said, so what is the actual factual difference between what you do by forcibly taking property and a common thief on the street just taking somebody's property by force? And they'll say, we have a legal sanction. No,
there it is.
But and I have to bring them back. So, no, you don't. Remember when I asked you for evidence that your laws applied, and you said what?
Right.
And that starts. And what'll tend to happen is, behind the scenes, things get dropped.
Oh, so they do it behind the scenes.
They don't always say it to me on the phone. Sometimes, I'll get with my supervisor and we'll get back, and then things get dropped.
It's got to be pretty humiliating.
That's a word for it. Yes, it is very humiliating, and I think that from that study, that's what's happening when I see it's not a legitimate power. It's not an excuse for their sociopathic behavior.
You know what's funny about humiliation is it's the same root word as humility. And humility is often seen as a kind of virtue and kind of seen as the opposite of like narcissism or some other forms of sociopathy. So what you're literally doing by humiliating them is you are dragging them out of their narcissism and putting them into a position of humility for the first time probably in their career.
Probably. And it's been my task, if you listen to a lot of what I've said, is I want to bring them to that position as gently as possible, so that the path of least resistance is to leave my client alone. We're at a time where we have to get back to the Freedom Summit here in Phoenix, Arizona. But Davi, Barker, and your websites?
Go to bitcoinnotbombs.com. You'll see some blog posts on the experiment, and the fundraising will be there. And then also dailyanarchist.com. I'll be sort of doing regular updates on the progress as the project moves forward.
Excellent. Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Davi.